Hello there, welcome back. Today we're going to make a router table fence. This is my Grizzly table saw, and it comes with a built-in router table on the wing here. I've never used it because I don't have a good fence for it. Now Grizzly suggests using your existing table saw fence, but you have to take the bolts out of this side, pull this white plastic piece off, bolt on a sacrificial wood piece with longer bolts, and then screw on some kind of split fence that you can put around the router. Seems very permanent, very clunky. Also what it does is it limits what you can do with your table saw fence. A lot of your table saw jigs, either shop made or store bought, ride the top of this fence on both sides. If you got some big monstrosity over here, that doesn't allow that. So my thought was to make a removable fence, one that had full adjustability, even dust collection built in, but yet when you weren't using it, you could unclamp it, hang it on the wall, and still have full functionality on your table saw fence. At least that's the plan. I've drawn up some drawings, I've thought about it for months, I've got some calculations in my head. I don't see why it won't work, so we might as well try it. And I want you to come along with me and let's get started. I'm going to use 3/4 MDF for our router table fence. I'm doing this because it's smooth and very stable, and it'll make a good substrate. This is a used piece of MDF, so I'm first ripping off the old screw holes, and then I'm going to rip it to width. This piece is approximately 12.5 inches wide, and it's going to make up the face and the back of our router fence. This will become clear in just a second. I'm going to put dados in this. I've got a 3/4 inch dado stack in my table saw, and I'm first putting a dado on either end of the piece. And now I've moved my fence, and I'm putting another dado approximately 15.25 inches in from either end. These are going to accept our spacer webs. Now we're going to cut the face and the back off. I kept these together because I wanted the dados to line up perfectly. I've got my saw at a 45-degree angle. So now you see, as we set the face up and the back up, that 45-degree angle is going to line up when we cut our web spacers. And this is what we're making our web spacers out of. This piece of MDF is approximately 3 5/8 wide, and I'm cutting a 45-degree angle to match that 45-degree angle on the top of the fence that we just cut. Now a little assembly with some glue. We put our web spacers in, lining them up with the top angle, and then the angle on the back side lines up perfectly now as well. One continuous 45-degree angle from the face to the back. Now we're just going to pre-drill and secure everything with some screws. And then a little sanding to clean up the MDF pucker around the screw holes. And now for a little test fit to show you how this interfaces with the table saw fence. You can see it just clamps on from the back edge. Now for the adjustable face portion of this router table fence, we're using a 5/8 melamine that I picked up in the shelving section at the box store. We're ripping it to 8 inches, which is the same width as our MDF face. Now we're going to split it in half on a 45-degree angle. And then we come back and just cut a very little chamfer on the front edge of each of the 45s. And here's what that looks like when we're done. Now the purpose of these two adjustable faces is to be able to close the gap around whatever diameter router bit we're using to make it as narrow as possible. Now we're going to lay out for the bolts that hold these pieces on. First I drill a 1/4 inch hole and then I'm going to countersink it for the head of the carriage bolt that's going to hold it on. Now I will put these on temporarily with clamps and push them all the way to the center where they're touching each other. This will be the foremost closed position. Now I'm flipping it up and using a 1/4 inch drill bit, I'm transferring that hole. Now I've moved them out to the foremost outside position and reclamped them, and I'm making another hole. Now, if we connect these two holes with a slot, we'll have full adjustability. And to cut that slot, we're just using a 1/4 inch straight cutting bit in our router table. And we're just using the table saw fence as the fence in this operation. And you can see the bolt slides freely back and forth. But now we need to cut another shallow slot so that we can recess this nut. We're going to first transfer the ends of our slot up to the top where we can see them. And now we mark the front edge and the back edge of our router bit on this piece of tape. This allows us to line up the front edge, drop it down, pull it through, and then raise it when it hits the back edge, and we know that it's routed the recess in the proper place on the face. Just like that. Now with the recess routed, we can temporarily put our faces on. We use a washer and a 1/4 inch plastic knob. And you can see the adjustability here from the back side. Now we need to cut a hole in the face of the fence so that the router bits have clearance. I've made this hole a little extra wide because we can always close it down with our adjustable melamine pieces on the front. After drilling out the corners with a Forstner bit, we've turned our jigsaw to 45 degrees, and with the help of a speed square, we're going to cut out this opening. I cut this with a 45-degree back bevel because I think it will help with the dust collection feature that we're about to add. I'm putting a slight round over on this piece of 1/2 inch spruce that I cut to fit the center section of our fence. This will create a box where we can put our dust port on and suck up any chips that we create. This is our dust collection fitting. Once I get it screwed on, then I screw our spruce cap on our box. One edge of our melamine was raw, so I'm adding some edge banding with this iron. Now to make the surface between our MDF and melamine as smooth as possible, we're going to add a little paste wax. And here's how our router table fence works. We set it in place and we clamp it against the table saw fence. Next, we adjust the table saw fence to the correct position and then we lock it down. Then we adjust our melamine faces to be as close to the bit as possible without actually touching it. And lastly, we connect our dust collection hose. Let's take one more fly around. Now, in case you want to know the dimensions of mine, here they are. But now, unless you have a 1023RLW by Grizzly, you'll probably need to customize the dimensions to fit your specific needs. This thing is awesome. It's exactly what I had envisioned months ago, and I don't know why it took me so long to get started. I just was a little daunted by it, but it was really easy actually, and I think you can make one for yourself. You may have a table saw that's a Grizzly with a router table, or you may have another brand. There's other brands out there that have router table wings on them, and this may actually solve a problem that you've been running into. So I hope it does, and I hope you leave me a comment and let me know if you're going to build it yourself. I really appreciate you making it to the end. The next video, I plan on using this router table quite extensively, so I hope you'll stay tuned for that. And well, as always, thanks for watching.